welcome back to the class, everyone. Captain Drogon's kit just dropped, and in addition to that, we also got a CG livestream explaining not only how he'll fit into the rest of Galactic Legend and Leia's kit, but also what other characters might end up there as well. So obviously we're going to be looking at his kit first and then kind of seeing how things tie in. This is not posted currently on the official forums. It probably is by the time this video comes out, but it is on EA.com. And as well, as I previously mentioned, this is the Twitch stream where CG Mouse and some other developers came on, and they didn't just read off everything that was in the EA post. They actually went in depth again into what the rest of Drogon's kit is, not just kit is going to look like, but the rest of his team is going to look like, and what some of those other members might be. So getting right off into his kit, and actually before his kit, I just want to say this, and I say this as someone who just had a pretty bad knee-jerk reaction to the fact that he is essentially a disabled character coming into the game. I hope this is kind of made clear. It's actually made a lot more clear in the actual Twitch post. He's not an amputee. He has focal amelia, which basically means that one of his, I won't get into the science because I don't know the science, but basically it means that he has a shorter arm and he's also missing a finger. So it is kind of cool that CG is reaching out to those people who might have a condition that's similar and could feel like they're a part of the Star Wars universe, regardless of really of what Disney or EA's intentions are. So kind of props to them, and I'm just really happy that they didn't like try to pull like some type of disabled card and just being the 14th character to be an amputee. Rather, it actually is something new. But anyways, on to the actual kit here. It is very simple. It looks to be good, but I have a feeling that it's actually going to start to matter when it comes to Galactic Legend Leia hitting the team. So his first basic is honestly just super underwhelming. If it's his turn, he stuns them for one turn, which is kind of the same level of R2's, or I think even Cups has a similar ability. I think Cups is only 50 or 30% or so. And then if they're Empire, he inflicts offense down, and if it's not his turn. So not really a whole lot going on here. If the enemy or the ally in the leader slot is a tank, this attack can't be evaded. I guess that's nice overall. And that is, by the way, confirmation that Galactic Legend Leia is a tank. That is said later on in the post. We won't read it specifically, but that is a thing, which I guess kind of makes sense. She doesn't really come across as your largest damage dealer. She's probably a little bit more support, but I think they're trying to do something interesting with her kit, similar to a little bit to B2, where if you don't attack her right off the bat, she's going to end up causing a lot of problems for you, both as a damage dealer, but also for detrimental effects like fracture, which that has been confirmed. His next step of special is going to pretty much just be burning. If they're already debuffed, he can deal damage again. He spreads burning to multiple characters, inflicted on a random enemy that doesn't already have it. If they already had it, it's also a dispel. That is pretty cool overall, but I think it's not gonna really do anything until we get Galactic Legend Leia and her leadership on top of it. There's no way that burning isn't going to have multiple effects. We've already seen this with Jango and Trench with the respective leaderships. The enemy teams can't gain turn meter. This is going to do something else as well. It's going to either stop turn meter or stop healing, or maybe you can't assist at a turn, very similar to how Bush's debuff status effect thing works. It is going to end up being a lot better in the long run, rather than just the fact that they lose accuracy and take a little bit of damage over time. But right now, this is kind of all it does in his current lineup. Next up, he has Battle Plan, and this is pretty much the end of his abilities, by the way. Dispel all debuffs on target other ally and allies with Keen Stratagem. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. If target other ally didn't already have that buff, they gain until the end of the battle, which can't be copied, dispelled, or prevented. You really have to think Master's Training here. He's going to put his specific unique buff onto that character. They're going to gain 25% offense and potency, or double that if they're a rebel ally, which they probably will be. Again, very similar to Master's Training, doubling its effects for Jedi. And then he calls everyone who has it to assist. He does start with it, by the way, so he's going to be calling himself to assist, similar how Armor will call Mandalorians to assist, including herself. And then they will also recover 20% protection, and a target other ally is rebel. They recover an additional 30% protection. So a lot of protection recovery here. Again, but this is like a very simple kit. This reminds me very much of like an R2 or what was the other kit we just mentioned? An R2 or a Hoda kit. Not really anything super new and groundbreaking. I think there's going to be a lot more that's coming with Galactic Legend Leia herself. His unique gives him a bunch of potency. Whenever his turn meter is reduced, he recovers protection and gains offense. I'm not really sure how relevant that is. We have a lot of other effects like this that are a lot better. I think of the SLKR leadership, where if you reduce the turn meter on them, they don't just recover protection or anything like that. They gain max protection, max health, and eventually just make them unkillable if you keep doing it. Whereas I don't like, troopers would probably still walk over this, assuming there isn't something in Galactic Legends Leia's lead that stops it, and of course there definitely will be. The first time each encounter, Drogon uses coordinated shot on his turn, it deals 75% more damage, which that actually could make a pretty darn big difference, and I believe that's his basic. So that is going to end up dealing a ton of damage over time. Not damage over time, but damage multiple times over the battle. At the start of the battle, he gains his own buff, we already talked about, and then whenever another ally uses an ability, he assists, dealing 30% less damage. So again, this is a very normal mechanic. We've seen this so many times before. This is the same thing as Ahsoka on a Galactic Republic team. This is the same thing as Echo on a 501st team. It's the same thing as Lobster on a First Order team. He's the dedicated character that is just going to be constantly assisting out of turn. It's a very similar mechanic they've been going with, and he's dealing 30% less damage, which is also pretty on par with the way the rest of these work. Whenever Drogon deals damage to an enemy, he and all allies recover 5% protection, and then, oh yeah, the stats are doubled for rebel allies, which we looked at before. At the start of the encounter, you have Galactic Legend Leia in the leader slot. Essentially, he gains protection up 100% for one turn, which I feel like this has to do something else too. 100% protection up, especially when it can be dispelled, that's like pretty garbage. It's not going to do really anything. I mean, if you're going up against JMK, you're going to get annihilated. If you're going up against Maul, it's going to get dispelled. Like, protection up is going to have to do something else with Leia, otherwise that just seems very, very odd. While in Grand Arenas, Drogon has 50% max health. Awesome, this will be his Omicron. And at the start of the battle, the ally in the leader slot is a rebel tank. He's immune to ability block. That actually is pretty important. At the start of each of his turns, he dispels all debuffs from another random ally and recovers 25% health protection. Yeah, that's quite huge. He's moving in from a damage dealer role to more of a support with the cleansing and the healing, which is great. And at the start of the battle, the ally in the leader slot is a rebel fighter support. Whenever Drogon scores a critical hit, all rebel allies gain 10% turn meter. That was confirmed both in the post as well as in the Twitch interview. The whole reason for this is so that he's just not completely homeless. If you don't have Galactic Legend Leia, you can just stick her with Saw, who's a rebel fighter support, and you kind of can make up a little bit that way. But I don't know if you can tell from my tone throughout this entire video, I really don't think he's going to be that good outside of Leia. The kit is very basic, and while I think when Leia comes in, she's going to completely spruce that up, very similar to how Hunter essentially gives every single Bad Batch member additional effects for whatever they do. Stealth ends up becoming something else. Defense up ends up becoming something else. Target lock ends up becoming something else. There's a lot of different things that happen when Hunter Elite is placed with Bad Batch, and I think we're going to see a very similar effect to that with Leia, where burning is going to mean something else, where Keen Stratagem is going to mean something else. But right now, I just can't really see this changing almost any counter at all. I mean, I guess Mon Mothma will clean up things better, but Saw's going to still get beat by Iden. He's still going to get beat probably by Wampa. I don't see this being really the big move maker for that overall. Now, what I do want to talk about, and that's not in the post, we won't really have a visual to go with it, but again, in the Twitch interview, which I'll have posted below in the description, with CVG Mouse, they specifically talked about a handful of characters working together with Drogon and Leia, and the main one that they singled out, and I'm so glad they did this, they didn't exactly say it was a lock, but they said that a lot of her kit was designed around him, is going to be R2-D2, which that's awesome. He has just been I feel like R2's been underutilized, not quite since his existence. When he very first came out and he was used with the CLS team, he was very good there. But ever since Nubaka came into the game and completely kicked him out, he's been okay-ish in like every single team. He's okay-ish with Sortie, he's okay-ish with JTR, he's okay-ish with Rey, he's okay-ish with JMK, but overall, he doesn't have one home where you're just like, oh yeah, I know Dark, or I know BT1, or I know Fennec, and the respective teams, where you just see a huge difference that they're making. R2 doesn't really have that type of home where he's going in and you can visibly see him changing a ton of counters. So that being said, it's very cool to see that he'll be here, and it does just make sense too. There's going to be something in Leia's kit that's going to be revolving around burning. Maybe it's not even the fact that it can't be evaded or anything like that, but there's going to be additional effects. Maybe it'll turn all burning into locked burning, or when rebel allies use it or something. That's going to be great. And R2 to himself, while his stat sharing is pretty weak compared to modern ones, he does still have it, and he's going to be able to get him to share that with the Galactic Legends, so that's something. And maybe Again, maybe Leia will have something in her kit that specifically addresses R2 that boosts him even up to the next level. I wouldn't be surprised. The two characters are fairly strongly intertwined, not just at the Battle of Endor, but also all throughout the original trilogy. R2 and Leia, again, they have a really close bond, especially with R2 carrying the Death Star plans in Episode 4, that iconic scene of her giving him the plans. I think it would be a huge mistake to not have him in there. So props to CG for that very likely being the case. Not everything they plan for always happens. And one of the other interesting things that they mentioned, and we'll see if this comes to fruition, but they mentioned that Kanan and Old Ben would probably be a part of this team. And the reason why is because they're rebel tanks. And the whole concept behind the team is for Leia and Drogon to do things behind the scenes, either damage-wise or debuff-wise or whatever-wise, to be able to bring the enemy team to submission. And really the only job the rest of the team has is to keep them from getting to the two of them. So I don't know if R2's stealth is going to end up being locked to the point where like JMK can't dispel it, and or Kanan and Old Ben going to have locked taunts so that again people can't get around it. I don't really know, but there's going to have to be something really superb in these kits for them to even offensively to be able to go after higher Galactic Legends, which is being marketed as an offensive team that beats pretty much everything. So targets like JMK, Jabba, Lord Vader, I feel like they all kind of have to be on the list. And I think they specifically chose Kanan and Old Ben because they're just kind of rebel tanks that aren't doing a whole lot right now and compared to the rest of them. And I think we'll see how it goes, but I can't see this stealing the entire CLS team. I still don't know if they're going to get away without this boost not coming to the entire team. But it seems to me that there is going to have to be at least one tank, and there's going to have to at least be R2 to be able to counteract all of those ignoring taunts and or just not fact of not having an actual taunter out there yourself to keep the fire off of your Galactic Legend, as well as your Drogon, who they're going to be most of the damage. I know the Leia is a tank, that is confirmed, but it was specifically mentioned in that kit as well that she is not a taunter. That is not her job. You want to go after her. She is going to punish you if you don't. Again, similar to a character like B2, where if you don't go after him, you're gonna feel the hurt, even though she doesn't taunt her. I guess Vander is actually a better example, where Vander will constantly keep reviving the rest of his team. He's not really a functional taunting tank, but you still want to go after him first, and you're punished if you don't. So that is pretty much the video for now, guys. Let me know what you think. Let me know what other characters you think might slot into the team. And yeah, we'll see if CLS makes it out alive. But until the next time, stay awesome.